Ang provisional arrest po is only for extradition. Hindi po kasi extradition ang route natin.
Okay, pero natapos na tayo sa extradition, pinag-usapan na ni Senator Cayetano. Ang request lang dito, provisional arrest?
Kaya nga ho ginagamit po yung
Provisional
term.
pa lang?
Ginagamit po ang term na provisional arrest in conjunction with extradition. Eh hindi po extradition ang ating pinagdaanan dito.
Okay, nais kong tawagin ang ating eksperto dito, si Professor Alexis Medina, na nagpapaliwanag na yung surrender ay naiiba sa extradition at maliwanag yon sa lahat. Kaya't I'd like to recognize Attorney Alexis Medina po. You've written extensively on the distinction and application of surrender versus extradition. Ano ang nangyari kay Presidente Duterte? Surrender ba yan or extradition?
Thank you for the invitation, Honorable Madam Chair. Good afternoon, everyone, the Cabinet Secretaries and distinguished members of the executive branch. Okay. Also, Senator Cayetano, good afternoon, Senator Bongo, Senator Jingo Estrada. Going back to the question, there was the proposition that the immediate surrender of the person arrested to the jurisdiction of a foreign government, or foreign state, or international tribunal can be undertaken without judicial proceedings under 9851, Section 17. I respect the opinion of our hardworking and brilliant Secretary of Justice, but nevertheless, I respectfully disagree. Surrender without judicial proceedings might amount to a violation of the liberty of abode that is guaranteed by Section 6 of the Bill of Rights. The liberty of abode cannot be impaired without a lawful order of the court. That's the text of the Constitution. Now, this constitutional protection is a barrier for any government action that would simply compel an individual to change his residence. So, to compel a person, to expel a person from his country of residence without a lawful court order, by excluding the judicial process, might amount to a violation of the liberty of abode. Now, surrender as an option under Section 17 is applicable only in very narrow situations. One is when the person to be arrested has already voluntarily surrendered to the custody of the national government, in which case that negates the necessity of the extradition process. The other option is when the person to be arrested is actually an alien, in which case there's no need to go through the extrajudicial process. It's only a deportation process which does not involve a court proceedings. So in those two instances, surrender without court proceedings would be possible. Other than those proceedings, it would be very difficult to maintain that is sanctioned by the Constitution.
So ang
Thank you, Your Honor.
sinasabi po ninyo, dalawa lang pagkakataon na pwede mag-surrender. Kung yung mismong akusado at arestado ang nagsusumite sa pamahalaan, yun, pwede yun.
Yes po.
Kusa niya yun.
Yes.
Ikalawa, kapag banyaga.
Yes po.
Hindi naman Pilipino.
Yes po.
Deport, executive action yun.
Yes po.
Mabilis, walang kailangan na korte-korte.
Yes po.
So yun lang, wala na pong ibang exception, wala na pong ibang sitwasyon kung saan pwedeng surrender. Kasi pinagpipilitan na sinurrender, sinuko ang Pangulong Duterte ng pamahalaan sa Interpol. Yun ang pagkaintindi ko sa sinasabi kanina. Sinasabi ninyo, hindi po pwede yun. Dalawang pagkakataon lang ang po pwede isuko ang isang Pilipino. Yung isa pa nga, hindi sa Pilipino. Attorney Medina po.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I stand by my statement. There may be possibilities that surrender can happen in other situations, but certainly surrender of a person necessarily requires the lawful order of the court. And this requirement is consistent with the policy of the Constitution that whenever there's a deprivation of liberty court intervention, judicial proceedings, judicial process is a requirement because the right to liberty is placed in an exalted status in our constitutional system. Hindi po pwedeng, the Constitution does not contemplate exclusion of the court process in depriving a person of his right to liberty.
Kung hindi pwedeng isuko ang isang Pilipino na hindi pumapayag, hindi naman voluntary, ang ibig mo sabihin, ang iba pang pagkakataon, extradition na.
Yes,
That's the only legal process to enforce surrender to the ICC. I-extradite na kapag Pilipino ka. Tama po ba?
I agree, Madam Chair. Thank you. And extradition is a judicial proceedings. Involves judicial proceedings po.
No, may I
At
respond?
maliwanag din dito, maski yung Interpol mismo, sinasaad na kinakailangan provisional arrest, extradition to be applied for in conformity with national laws. Sinasabi nga sa ating konstitusyon, sa ating Korte Suprema lamang at sa mga iba't iba pang korte. Kasama pa ba yung korte sa ICC?
If I may comment, Your Honor, can I give the context for my statements?
Yes, please.
Yeah, okay. My apologies. I had to answer the question directly. I was invited on the basis of a post I made online, a legal opinion on the arrest of the former president. I'd like
And also your qualifications as an international lawyer.
No, actually, I'm a teacher of constitutional law. I taught at San Sebastian College, Recoletos, Manila, the Polytechnic University of Manila, and the New Era University. I also give lectures for bar review examiners. Okay. Well, when I posted a legal opinion on the arrest of the president, to my surprise, it gained public traction. And my objective in posting that is really for academic discourse, not for any legal or political advocacy. I'd like to make it clear to everyone in the room, I am not here as a partisan. Okay, I am not involved in any political activity. My views that I posted are from the detached perspective of an academic.
Full disclosure po, I've never met you before.
Yeah, opo.
I've only read you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you po. And to be honest po, 2016, I did not even vote for the former president. I was counsel for Grace Poe. Okay, so Senator Grace Poe. So my view that the arrest and detention and expulsion of the former president may have infringed several constitutional guarantees in favor of the former president. Thank you.
Thank you very much,
Madam Chair.
Attorney Medina. I think Senator Cayetano
Yeah.
has evinced his desire to
Well,
interpolate.
full disclosure then, I'm trying to be non-partisan. I ran as an independent last election, no political party. But I did vote for the president in 2016. No? So I saw the SOJ raising his hand. Would you like to give your comment now? Or I'm actually going to ask him questions on this. Then I'll ask the chair to give you time to rebut.
I
or
would like to hear your questions and answers.
Thank you for that. So, sir, tayo ba nag-meet na rin ba tayo?
I don't think so, sir.
I don't think so. So, yeah. Yes, so. I don't mean to be rude, and I thank you for your, volunteering your opinion. Kasi nga, basically, there's so much confusion. So, we're trying to get through the confusion, not only for today, but also for tomorrow, to make sure that we respect our constitution and everyone's right is protected. So my first question, do we, in this room, do we all agree that if there's conflict between international law and our constitution will prevail?
Yes, Your Honor, that's the doctrine of constitutional supremacy.
You agree, SOJ? No? Yeah. If there's conflict, di ba? Kasi sinabi naman sa Constitution that international law forms part of the land of the law. So if there's no conflict, wala tayong problema. Okay. So having said that, one of the fundamental or yung anchors or foundations of the Philippine Constitution, also from the U.S. Constitution, is Section 1 of the Bill of Rights, that no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall any person be denied equal protection of law. Agree, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. So, when we arrest someone, we're depriving him of liberty.
Yes, Your Honor.
When we deport someone by virtue of a warrant arrest, let's say like in the case of Congressman Mark Jimenez extradition with the U.S., we're depriving him of liberty.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. So when we, I don't know, alleged lawful arrest, let me just use it that way while we're determining of former President Duterte and then putting him a plane to Hague, we deprived him of liberty.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. So the next question, was he given due process? So ang sinasabi po ng government, there are two ways, extradition or surrender.
Yes.
Okay. And tama po ba, this law that we're invoking now was passed before we ratified yung ICC?
Yes. Mhm.
This law was prior to the ICC, no? Judicial Notice. Republic Act
9851.
9851. No? I mentioned that because in the interpellation of, I think it was Senator Gordon and Senator Loren, and then meron din Senator Miriam, it was made clear doon na kailangan magpasan pa ng ibang legislation for the pag mag-a-arrest. Ayan, no? Senator Legarda, so even if the executive ratifies it and we concur on its ratification, and we pass this proposed measure that we are contemplating now, is it not enough to implement the Rome Statute? Mali lang yung records, wrong statute nakalagay. Pero mukhang tama din na wrong talaga. Pero Rome Statute dapat to. Okay. Senator Gordon, yes, it is just like the VFA all over again. It is not enough, Mr. President, because there will be a mechanism upon which we would have to surrender certain nationals who have committed war crimes or violations against covered by the statute that we have not to be met, no? So meaning, if you take judicial notice of this, while we were passing this law later on, the intent of the legislature was to pass a mechanism for surrender. You can dispute that later on, sir, and look into it. I don't think we'll finish everything naman today, di ba? Some of this we really have to also consult everyone, no? But having said that, I think the point of the senators there was, klaro kasi extradition. So sa extradition, mako-comply mo yung due process sa Section 1 because you will, tama ba ako, you will be brought before a judge.
Yes po.
They will show you the extradition notice and the other papers like the warrant of arrest, and the person being arrested can answer before the judge. Tama
Yes
po ba?
po.
Okay. So let me go to Section 2. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures of whatever nature and for whatever purpose shall be inviolable. No? So, i-google na lang natin inviolable, but tama ba? Basically, you cannot violate this.
Opo.
Okay. And no search warrant or warrant of arrest shall issue except upon probable cause to be determined personally by the judge and after examination under oath or affirmation of the complainant and the witness he may produce, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the person or things to be seized. Okay. Mas bata ka ba sa akin? 1970 ako pinanganak.
Matanda na po ako.
So,
Yeah.
halos magka-age tayo.
Hindi po, mas matanda po ako.
Mas matanda ka ng kwat. Sorry, mas mukha kang bata sa akin. But, no, the point is, because medyo middle kaming pinanganak nun, I think mas ka-age ko si Gilbert, no? So, ang alam ko lang, by the time kasi I got to law school, 87, 97 ako graduate, 10 years na tong constitution na to eh. This was all a reaction to martial law, where they had different kinds of warrant of arrest, including yung ASO and whatever, which were all legal during that time. Ha? I'm not judging that time. I'm just saying, both under martial law, the former constitution, jurisprudence, going from the Spanish to the Japanese period, to the American period, to our independence. So in the wisdom of the Filipino people, pinasa to na except, ang alam ko lang exception, there may be one or two, but alam ko exception yung sinabi mong deportation, because when they come in, hindi na kailangan pumunta sa judge, immigration officials can deport or arrest them, di ba? Pero otherwise, hindi pwedeng si SOJ, DILG, hindi pwedeng si Secretary no matter how brilliant Secretary Gubo is, when he's in the military can only arrest ata their personnel, no, under certain codes, di ba? But he cannot issue a warrant of arrest, di ba? So the safeguard of each and every Filipino sa due process is you're brought before a judge, and due process is one, yung nakalagay dito, that you're informed about the nature of the words is in 12. Yan. Sa section 12, any person under investigation for the commission of offense shall have the right to be informed of his right to remain silent and have competent and independent counsel preferably of his choice. Yan po, General Torre, yung Miranda rights na binasa mo kay former President Duterte. Tama po, no? I didn't see the whole video eh. I just heard SILG said that there's a whole video, but I only saw sa internet, pero nakita ko binasahan. Okay. Pero nakalagay dito, okay. If he cannot afford, he can be given a counsel, so may question ako later on dyan. Okay, but on section 14, eto. In all criminal prosecution, the accused shall be presumed innocent until contrary is proved, and shall enjoy the right to be heard by himself and counsel. Ito importante. To be informed of the nature and cause of the accusation against him, and then to have a speedy trial, no? So meaning, the more you have to explain yung cause at yung nature kung foreign, because you're not familiar with their laws compared sa laws natin. So for example, in the case of Mark Jimenez, he questioned the extradition request before a Philippine judge. I googled it, nakalagay pa nga doon. Nagrereklamo siya, mas atat pa daw yung Pilipino na extradite siya kaso sa Amerikano. I don't even know it's true, no? But my question is, sir, so is it your proposition that if we surrender without an arrest from a Philippine judge, we're denying him due process? That's my words based on Section 1, but feel free to use your words.
Thank you, Senator. Yes, I agree. Basically, the principle involved here is due process. I think a lot of commentators have already pointed out the requirement of adherence to the principle of due process. So whatever it is that the government is action is taking that would deprive a person of life, liberty, or process or property, it has to go through a certain process. It's called procedural due process. If it's a crime, it's a criminal due process. It's a procedural due process requires opportunity to be heard, reasonable opportunity to be heard by and in an impartial or before an impartial tribunal.
And in criminal law, both procedural and substantial due process are essential. Not only
Yes,
important,
yes.
but are essential,
Yes,
di ba?
yes,
Because
yeah.
in let's say, other cases, kung magkamali ng konti sa procedure, it's repairable. Pero sa criminal law, na-accuse ka na mali, kambal mo pala yon, or nung pinasa yung batas na yon, hindi pa pala crime, and then you weren't informed, fatal yon. So much so, that meron ngang doctrine of the poisonous tree, di ba? That if yung evidence that were taken from you were illegally obtained, hindi pwedeng gamitin against you. Is my recollection of the law. You're a professor, so you continually review this. I don't continually review you do this, no, but I should, of course.
I agree, Senator.
Okay.
The rule is the exclusionary rule for violation of the right against
Yes.
unreasonable searches.
I was just
and seizures.
emphasizing how important the procedural due process is, because my next question, sinabi mo nga reasonable time, di ba? So
Reasonable opportunity po.
reasonable opportunity, which includes reasonable time, right?
Opo.
Because even if you can run to court, if you give the court 3 hours, 5 hours, 10 hours, it's not for us because wala namang Supreme Court regulation or batas na nagsasabing the writ of habeas corpus has to be issued in 12 hours or 1 day or etc. Diba? So you give reasonable time. So can I just interject one question kay General Torre? So sir, when you read the Miranda rights, did you explain the nature and cause of the crime that he's being accused of?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
It is on record and caught on video, sir.
Yeah, sorry about I don't know lang kasi about the record, so I'm not doubting you.
Yes, sir.
Ang napanood ko lang kasi yung standard Miranda rights that
Yes, sir.
you have. So, how did you read to him yung nature and cause? It's sa warrant or you...
Yes, sir. I read
narrate-
from the warrant, sir. It
From
was
the warrant.
extracted from the warrant by the DOJ.
So, you read to him the warrant. Around
Yes, sir.
what time po yun? More or less.
Mga around before lunchtime, sir.
So, nung hinuli mo pa lang, binasa nyo na sa kanya yung warrant?
When
Kasi
we-
yung nakita namin video, sir, sa airport, the wife of former ES Miguel Dia was asking nga, di ba? And Ma'am Hanilet was also asking. At sinabi nyo, I don't know what you answered, but basically hindi nyo pa pinakita yung warrant noon, di ba?
Nung yung mga video na yun, sir, gabi na yun, sir. Tapos na ang lahat na yun, sir. Paulit-ulit na lang, inuulit-ulit
No,
na
what
lang,
I was
sir.
saying is that ang nakita kong video, yung
Yes.
palabas pa lang sila, and you were informing him naman na meron warrant, di ba?
Palabas sa tube, sir.
Sa tube, oo.
Nung palabas sa tube, sir, when the party of the former president is going out of the tube, doon, sir, sa mismong junction ng tube at sa yung moving junction, sir, ng tube, he was already met by PG who attempted to read him his rights.
Okay.
And they said, wag na, pababain natin ang tension, doon na lang sa 250th.
Okay, so they attempted
wing,
to
sir.
read him his right, and dala nila yung warrant noon, hindi pa?
Yes, sir. Dala na, sir.
Dala na nila?
They will not
So
go
yung
out of
issue
the
na
plane.
walang dala, that's not true kasi dala nila.
Hindi sila lalabas sa plane, sir. Yun ang condition nila. Hindi kami lalabas sa plane pag wala yung warrant. And
So
it was shown
nandun yung
to them.
warrant. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So did you or any of the people who were serving the warrant explain to him the elements of the crime?
Yes, sir. The whole warrant was actually given to them.
So just because it's simple naman, what are the elements of the crime against humanity na may murder? If you explain to him, then you can explain to me, di ba? So what's the elements?
During the time, sir, it was not me who attempted reading of the rights. It was the prosecutor general.
Yes, sir. But sabi mo, you know the elements of the
I
crime.
read to him in toto what was written
Yes.
on the warrant, sir.
I read the warrant. Wala doon yung elements of the crime.
We did not say that I know the elements, sir. I just
Yes.
read to him exactly
So-
the charges in accordance with what is written in the
Yes,
warrant.
sir. I'm not arguing on the opinion and the legal kasi ito factual pa lang. But my point is, when you arrest a Filipino citizen for theft, for inciting to sedition, etc., meron po tayong legal maxim that ignorance of the law is not an excuse thereof. So, we are, as Filipino citizens, dapat alam natin yung law, di ba? So, pag inarrest mo yung isang tao, ano yan, bagransya. Sandali lang, sir. Na-repeal na yung bagransya, hindi na bata, ano yan. But I'm arresting you for what? For theft. You don't need to read the elements because alam na ng Pilipino yung nature and yung cause nung theft. But since this is a foreign court, and it's not even in the Rome Statute, yung elements. It was passed later on. So ang point ko, was the accused, in this case, former president, aware of what he was being accused of? So I'll stop there, sir. Factual lang naman, and I take your answer that it was the warrant was there, it was read to him, and there are different... I won't go to them now. I'm just making the point that even if you serve the warrant, kung hindi niya alam at hindi alam ng lawyer niya, how do you expect him to run to court to get legal remedy? So, going back, Attorney Alexis, sir, so is the ability to seek legal remedy part of due process? Meaning, if you deny me, if you're accusing me of something, my warrant of arrest, and you don't allow me to go to Philippine courts, is that denying you due process?
Absolutely, Your Honor. Without casting any aspersion on the character or competence of the officials involved.
Yeah, I'm asking a general question. I think
the question
SOJ
that
naman is
posed, yes.
listening and they will answer. So, going back to surrender. So, if my foreign court ngayon, I have it somewhere here, pasensya na kayo magulo. Senator Trillanes was saying in May 2024 na 3 batches of warrants to. First daw is si PRD, after that daw, Senator Bato, Senator Bongo, etc. And then sa third batch, military and police officials. So, I agree with Senator Bongo na wala na tayong magagawa in the sense na nandyan na si PRD. But I disagree na hindi importante itong hearing kasi kung may second, third, fourth batch pa yung warrants, it's important. And take note tama po ba ako, during the time that the Marawi uprising or the Marawi siege, Secretary Anyo, we were still under ICC noon, no? Kasi that was, tama po, di ba? When we were in Russia. So you know, if a terrorist who survived goes to the ICC and shows them pictures of 19 women or children that were died and comes up with a witness and tells them, alam nyo, from President Duterte to Sec Anyo to the Chief of Staff to ganito, they planned this, they killed this ganito. It may be not true, it may be totally false. So if the ICC issues a warrant here, I want to make sure that every officer of the AFP has his day in court before they're sent to Hague. So valid itong hearing na to. As I said, may emotions lang and you know, let's excuse all of ourselves kung minsan may konting emotion, but we just want to clarify this. So yun yung context ng tanong ko, Attorney Alexis, no? So kung halimbawa may warrant for whatever for Juan de la Cruz, kinuha siya based on that warrant, pero hindi siya binigyan ng enough time or enough opportunity before a Philippine judge, aren't we denying him due process? Because pagdating dun sa foreign court, as SOJ said correctly, and I agree with him, iba language, iba procedure, and everything. So isn't a Filipino citizen, doesn't he have the right under the Constitution to be judged first by Philippine law before he's brought out to a foreign country or to an international tribunal to face what their interpretation of the law is?
If I may answer,
Yes.
Your Honor, if you look at the consistent policy of the Constitution, when there is a deprivation of liberty, the consistent policy of the Constitution is to involve the judiciary. The exclusion, complete exclusion of the judiciary in the deprivation of liberty of any citizen is anathema to the principles of the Constitution. And you can see that in the different provisions of the Constitution. You can see that in the requirements for the warrant of arrest, due process, liberty of abode, criminal proceeding, criminal due process, even in the period when the privilege of the writ of habeas corpus is suspended, the Constitution mandates the government to file charges against the person. So,
Ma'am, last two
always.
questions. Yeah. Sorry to interrupt.
Constitution.
Yeah.
Okay.
Last
Thank
two
you po.
questions or three then opportunity for SOJ. No? So, yung pong, nagugulat ako kasi even those who claim to be human rights activists, pinopost nila to sa Facebook. Again, hindi ko nila lahat. I admire many human rights activists, but even some na very well known, no? If I'm not mistaken, even former Senator De Lima, more or less may ganitong tema. Bakit? Si Duterte ba may alam na due process nung pinatay silang mga to? Diba? Bakit siya ngayon humihingi ng due process? So, my next question is due process only for the innocent? Only for the saints? Or even, first of all, President Duterte is presumed innocent. But assuming 5 times na convicted drug lord, rapist, torturer, etc., nahuli ng PNP, under our Constitution, dapat ba may due process pa rin siya?
Yes, Your Honor, if you look at the text of the Constitution, there are no names that are excluded from its application.
So even if a person, whether he's a private citizen or government, is accused of not giving due process, that's the beauty of the Constitution, di ba?
Opo.
That everyone should be given due process.
Opo.
Oo. So I just want to make that clear kasi nga, sabi ni Secretary De Lima, walang due process sa kanya. But if you go before that, nung iniimbestigahan pa lang niya si President Duterte when she was CHR and she was DOJ, wala naman siyang final na kaso. So sabi naman ni President Duterte, nung mayor pa lang siya, wala akong due process. Sinasabi na niya na guilty ako. So nung siya naman yung naging presidente, eto naman nakulong, ang sinasabi naman niyang walang due process si Duterte. So ang point ko lang, if we as Filipinos do not demand due process for everyone, DOJ and the government is not saying that they denied, but I'm just saying, no, mali yung argument sa Facebook na Pag ikaw hindi mo binigyan ng due process yung kalaban, ikaw hindi ka na pwedeng kumuha ng due process. Iba po yon. Meron doctrine sa batas that those to come to court should come with clean hands. That's a different application. Anyone can come to court asking for due process, di ba? I wanted to clear that up lang, and I ask you that, Dr. Alexis, for two reasons. One, attorney, because you're a constitutional law professor. Number two, if I ask SOJ, baka ispin nung iba and they tell na meron o wala si Duterte. I'm not talking about Duterte, I'm talking about every single Filipino deserves due process. Okay. My next question is, will the Interpol, or I don't want you to make a judgment sa Interpol, no? If any foreign entity, no, comes to us and asks for an arrest, is it non-cooperation with them if we say, may provisional arrest, we have him in custody, but a Philippine judge has to decide whether or not we can turn him over to you?
If I may, Your Honor, international conventions actually respect compliance with the domestic laws. Even the Rome Statute, in the cooperation, the requirement is application of the laws of the country, of the custodial state. So it's up to the custodial state how to comply. There is no issue that we should comply with all these international obligations. That's not the dispute. The dispute is how to comply. And the manner of compliance is governed primarily, of course, by the Constitution, the highest law of the land.
And that's precisely why the diffusion notice stated provisional arrest or extradition, because so this is the parallelism of what I want to make. If the ICC knows na pwedeng provisional arrest or pwedeng extradition, they give it sa Interpol, hindi naman magagalit ang Interpol kung nagbigay silang red notice at ang sagot mo sa Interpol, we have him under custody but we cannot release him to you unless a Philippine court so orders, or unless we give him enough time to seek legal remedy. Because of course, if the person doesn't seek legal remedy, para na rin yung sinurrender. Because the whole argument is that we're just helping Interpol. So I just wanted to clear that up. And again, ang hirap ng Facebook o media interview kasi hindi nakakasagot yung kabilang side. Eto, we can, I'll stop there, Madam Chair. So the point I want to make, and this is my personal stand, and I hope in a less emotional and more academic setting also, Mr. Secretaries, we can determine that, because part of life, liberty, and ano ba yung ginamit natin? Iba kasi yung sa US, di ba? Oh, sila may pursuit of happiness. Tayo, life, liberty, and property is the peace of mind. Di ba? The peace of mind na dito, at least sa bansa ko, siyempre, hindi mo kontrolado kriminal. Diyan pumapasok, Sir Marbil, yung peace and order, assurance, etc. But at least alam ko, hindi ako pwedeng biglang arestuhin dito tapos i-try wherever, di ba? Pero kung in doubt yon, di ba? So, for example, feel free to judge Senator Bato, but I made the same statement as the Senate President that if he's in the Senate, even if beyond 6 years yung kakasuhan sa kanya, kung hindi pa nagde-decide ang Supreme Court what constitutes surrender, etc., and he seeks legal remedy, we should give, under reasonable circumstances, sanctuary to him. We did that sa Batasan 5. I mean, I've never be pro, hindi ko na alam kung anong word ang gagamitin kasi baka sabihin red tagging, di ba? But the progressive left or whatever, di ba? During the time of President Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo, we were together, Secretary, di ba, na we weren't looking at their ideology, we weren't looking at guilty ba sila o hindi, we were looking at the institution and the, what you call this, the balancing ba na pag medyo sigurado na legal yung pag-arrest, etc., tayo mismo kumakausap sa kanila na lumabas na kayo dito. I think that's what happened with Senator De Lima. No? I'll stop there. Napakaraming issues. Mamaya pa na factual ang tanong ko. But, Madam Chair, if we can give the DOJ an opportunity to respond. Thank you very much.
Your thoughts about this issue. Tigtanag videos.